Imagine you check your bank account on January 1st. Your balance is higher than it was exactly 1 year ago. You saved consistently, you spent carefully, and the bank rewarded you with interest. The number went up. By every visible measure, you are ahead. So why does it feel like everything is getting harder to afford? That feeling is not a coincidence. It is not poor money management. And it is not just in your head. It is the result of a gap that most people never learn to see. Your balance grew, but the world around your balance grew faster. Let us start with a simple definition. Inflation is the general rise in the prices of goods and services over time. Not one item getting more expensive because of a shortage. Not one store raising its prices. Inflation describes a broad, sustained increase in what it costs to live. Groceries cost more. Rent costs more. A visit to the doctor costs more. Your electricity bill, your car insurance, your internet subscription. When these prices rise year after year, the same amount of money buys less and less of the life you are trying to maintain. This is what economists call a decline in purchasing power. And purchasing power is the real measure of your savings. Not the number on the screen, not the balance the bank reports. Purchasing power is how much of actual life your money can buy. It answers the question that a bank statement never asks. What can these dollars actually do? Think about it this way. Suppose you have $5,000 saved. Today, that $5,000 covers 3 months of groceries, 1 month of rent, a few tanks of gas, and some room left over. That is the real value of your savings. Not 5,000 as an abstract number. 5,000 as a collection of things it allows you to have and do. Now suppose you leave that $5,000 sitting in an account for 2 years, earning almost nothing. When you return to it, the number is the same, maybe slightly higher with a small amount of interest. But the grocery bill is higher. Rent has increased. Gas costs more. The 3 months of groceries your savings once covered might now cover 2.5. Your balance barely moved. Your purchasing power fell. This is how wealth quietly disappears without anyone taking a single dollar from your account. Now consider what most savings accounts actually pay. Many standard accounts offer interest rates well below inflation. If your account pays 1.5% annually and inflation is running at 4%, your purchasing power is declining by roughly 2.5% every year. Year 1, the loss is modest. Year 2, the gap widens. After 5 years, the distance between what your balance says and what your savings can actually buy has grown into something that matters. The bank did nothing wrong. It paid exactly what it promised. But the promise was never enough to keep up with the rising cost of everything else. And here's where it becomes personal. Inflation is not a single number that applies equally to everyone. National inflation figures are averages across the entire economy. But your life is not average. If a large portion of your income goes toward rent, healthcare, and food, and those categories are rising faster than the overall average, then your personal inflation rate is higher than the headline number. Your savings have to work harder just to stay in place. Meanwhile, someone spending differently in a different city experiences an entirely different rate of erosion. The uncomfortable truth is this: keeping money in cash feels safe. It feels responsible. There is no volatility, no headlines about market crashes, no anxiety about watching a number drop. The balance is stable, and stability feels like protection. But stability of the number is not the same as stability of value. Cash can sit perfectly still inside an account, while its real worth slowly drains away through the rising cost of groceries, the climbing price of a medical appointment, the landlord's annual rent increase, the higher electricity rate that appears on next winter's bill. These are not dramatic losses. They arrive quietly, one slightly higher price at a time. There is no notification, no transaction that says your savings lost purchasing power today. The account looks fine. The loss is happening everywhere around it. This is the illusion. The balance increases, so you assume you are moving forward. But moving forward requires outpacing the rising cost of the life those savings are meant to support. If prices are climbing faster than your interest rate, you are not standing still. You are sliding backward. The appearance of safety has hidden a very real and very ongoing loss. So the next time you look at a growing bank balance and feel reassured, ask a different question. Do not ask how many dollars you have. Ask what those dollars can buy compared to what they could buy a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. That comparison tells you whether your savings are truly growing or simply adding digits while losing power. Because the number in your account is only half the story. The other half is written in the price of eggs, the cost of a doctor's visit, the rent increase notice slipped under your door. And that half of the story is the one that determines whether your savings are working for you or quietly, invisibly falling behind. So now the question becomes, what do you do about it? The first step is a mindset shift. Most people measure financial success by protecting the number. They want to make sure their balance does not decrease. And that instinct is understandable. Watching a number go down feels like losing. But if you only protect the number while the world around it becomes more expensive, you are losing something more important than digits. You are losing purchasing power. You are losing the ability to do things, buy things, and live the life those savings were meant to support. The goal is not to protect the number. The goal is to protect the value. And those two things are not always the same. Once you accept that framing, the next question becomes practical. Where should money go if a standard savings account is not enough to outpace inflation? The answer depends on what the money is for. Not every dollar has the same job, and matching the right tool to the right purpose is one of the most important decisions in personal finance. Start with high-yield savings accounts. These are still savings accounts, still protected by deposit insurance in most cases, and still accessible when you need them. But instead of paying a fraction of a percent, they often pay significantly more. The difference matters. If inflation is running at 4% and your account pays 1%, you are losing 3% of purchasing power annually. If that account instead pays 4.5%, the equation changes. You may still fall slightly behind, but the gap narrows considerably. For money that needs to stay accessible, this is one of the simplest and most practical adjustments available. Then there are bonds. When you purchase a bond, you are essentially lending money to a government or corporation in exchange for regular interest payments. Government bonds, particularly those issued by stable governments, are generally considered lower risk. Some bonds are specifically designed to account for inflation, adjusting their returns based on changes in the price level. These are not exciting instruments. They do not offer dramatic growth. But for money that you do not need immediately and want to protect from inflation over a medium-term horizon, they can serve a meaningful purpose. And then there is long-term investing. Over extended periods of time, assets such as stocks have historically outpaced inflation by a meaningful margin. This does not mean the value is stable. Markets rise and fall. A balance that looks strong in January can look very different in October. But for money that will not be needed for 10, 20, or 30 years, the ability to absorb short-term volatility in exchange for long-term growth is a powerful tool. Inflation erodes slowly. Long-term investment returns, historically, have often outpaced that erosion over time. But here is the trade-off that nobody should ignore. The more growth potential an option offers, the less accessible it typically is. Cash in a savings account is available tomorrow. A bond may be locked for a period or may lose value if sold early. An investment portfolio can drop significantly right before you need the money. Each option sits somewhere on a spectrum between liquidity, safety, and growth. And no option gives you all three at once. This is why emergency savings matter and why they should remain in cash or a high-yield savings account, not chasing returns. Most financial guidance suggests keeping somewhere between 3 and 6 months of expenses in savings that is stable and immediately accessible. This money is not meant to grow aggressively. It is meant to be there. If your income stops unexpectedly, if your car needs major repairs, if a medical bill arrives without warning, liquid savings are what give you time and options. Without that buffer, a financial emergency can force you to sell investments at the wrong moment, take on debt, or make decisions under pressure that create larger problems later. The mistake is not having emergency savings. The mistake is letting emergency savings become the destination for every dollar you own. Once that safety net is in place, the money that extends beyond it should be evaluated differently. What is this money for? When will I need it? And is it in the right place to accomplish that goal? This is also why it is worth reviewing your situation regularly. Inflation rates change. Interest rates change. The rate a savings account offered last year may be meaningfully higher or lower than what it offers today. The gap between your returns and your cost of living may have widened or narrowed. Your own goals may have shifted. A regular check-in, even once a year, asking whether your money is in the right places for the purposes you intend, can catch problems before they compound quietly over years. Look at the interest rate your savings are earning. Look at the current rate of inflation. Compare them. If the gap is working against you, consider whether any portion of your savings could be moved somewhere better suited to its purpose, without sacrificing the liquidity or safety that portion genuinely requires. None of this requires perfect decisions. It requires asking better questions. Because the final lesson is this: a bank balance tells you how many dollars you have. It does not tell you what those dollars can accomplish, what they can buy, what security they provide, what freedom they create. That is the real measure of your savings. Not the number, but the power behind the number. So do not just watch your balance grow. Watch what it can do, and make sure the answer keeps up with the world it has to live in.